Here. And so you go, yes, I want that. And you begin treating and treating and treating and treating and treating. And then the next thing you know, the divine wisdom within says, so you need to move your weight more than you'd like to. A whole lot more. Let's say 13 inches more than, that kind of thing. And, you don't want to move. No. Years ago, a classmate of mine, when I was studying and was teaching to be a practitioner, I got his card, and he wanted to have his cake and lose weight too. That was his request. He felt that he was overweight, and he wanted to continue to eat cake and lose weight. Eat pretty much anything he wanted. And I knew I wasn't the best practitioner for him because I hadn't mastered that myself. And so, but I didn't have enough wisdom at that time to understand what was wrong with that picture. And what's wrong with that picture is, I can't say never, but it is rare when divine wisdom says, eat the cake. It tends to say more lettuce than cake. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying cake is bad for you. I'm just saying, if we first need to obey the laws that we have been given in this physical realm. We do need to obey them and so that we can understand them and agree with them and then transcend them. Because that consciousness that wanted to eat the cake and be thin too was a very superficial consciousness. They didn't have an understanding of health. Didn't even have a desire for health. Just wanted to look good and eat what you wanted. But there was no desire to be changed by the good that he wanted. And that's where God gets us. So you could treat and treat and treat and treat and treat and treat. I have. And nothing's happening. Just like with my relative who was in that coma. I'm treating and treating and treating and treating, and nothing's happening. And then finally, Spirit said, well, let's talk about what's going on within you. And when I started dealing with my issues, she woke up. What's that about? So this desire to have more is the way God gets us awake. And we say, yes, I do want more. And then Spirit says, okay, well then you need to change. You want more loving relationships, then you need to be more loving. To everybody. Oh, I don't want to be more loving than them. They're not serving this one, they're on that one. And you hear that in you. But Spirit is not going to compromise with us. God is not a compromising God. Did you realize that? I don't know if I even realized that. God does not compromise. Why should God compromise? All-powerful, all-knowing, everywhere present. God is all. Our desire to want it all is the God allness in us saying yes, agreeing, and who's going to change you? Not God. So it is very spiritual. It is part of our spiritual journey to desire more good and to go after it. And then, once we're following that carrot, we listen to that inner wisdom, which very quickly tells us to give things up, to give up our judgment, to practice forgiveness, to move our body. Years ago, how long ago? Maybe 12 years ago? I remember at the end of the year, I said, Spirit, divine old Spirit within. I said spiritual then. Divine Spirit within. What spiritual practice shall I add to my spiritual regimen in the next year? And the Divine Presence said, walk 15 minutes a day. And I said, that's not spiritual. You must think of something spiritual. And it kept saying, what, 15 minutes a day? And I kept discounting it. But it just wouldn't go away. It was hounding me. So on February 1st, it took me a month, I began my journey of walking 15 minutes a day. And my whole experience and enjoyment of being a human being opened up. I don't get it. What if I had meditated 15 minutes more a day? No. No, Spirit said walk. You got a human body. I gave it to you. Use it. So this desire to be healthier is present within us. I read an article, I glanced at it on my way here. There was this doctor who was working in a different technique on one of the sports injuries, I guess, around the ankle. And he was, doing, applying pressure or whatever, very different thing. And the woman who was being treated, was looking at all this pain, and he was pressing it and made it hurt more, and, she's crying and whatever, and he's like, he's done, and he's like, okay, get up. And she reaches for his crutches, and he's not like, no, get up, jog in place. And she's like, whatever, and so she tentatively got on, and she found out that her leg is perfectly fine, and she started jogging, and he said, how's it going? And she goes, pretty good. And he's like, sit back down, pretty good is not enough. We want perfect. And he went back to work on her. So this divine presence is perfect, and is always calling on us to know more and more about what God is, which is perfect, whole, and complete, which is all. Nothing excluded, nothing accepted, no compromises, all good. And if we experience any limitation, that's us, not God. And God's calling on us to grow out of it. There's one metaphysician who said, if we're not growing, we're dying. I watch religious people, spiritual people, sometimes do spiritual practice. And you might hear them say something like, I'm perfect. I have no issues. I'm not working on anything. And our teaching actually would say that's not true. It's spiritually true, but there's infinite love to grow into. There's infinite health to grow into. Judge Thomas Troward, he says that perfect health and regeneration of the body, as in reversal of any of the aging process, and perpetual regeneration and renewal of the physical body are all just a matter of degree. So if you've got perfect health, we'll then get into renewal, so that the body is getting younger and younger and younger. And if you've got that mastered, then perpetual renewal of the physical body. According to Judge Thomas Troward, in theory, it's possible. It's just a matter of going more and more into understanding what eternal life is. And so we're never done. I know that early on in my life, I'd say the first, 40 years of my life, I wanted to be perfect. And then I could rest. If I was just perfect, my life would be wonderful. And I was a perfectionist, which meant that I would never be perfect. If you're a perfectionist, that means you will never be perfect. And so you're eternally striving for something that you never will be. And yet the need to know that you are already perfect keeps driving you. Into what? Into realizing that it's living that's perfect. Living is perfect. Expressing is perfect. Becoming is what's perfect. We are creating. That's what's perfect. What we create could be anything. But the act of creating is perfect. And so becoming more healthier or wealthier or more loving is the perfection of life. And when we claim that, we discover that the joy of life is living, creating, doing something with this physical body. You all know that I'm working on running a 10-minute mile. Yesterday, it's not verified yet by external measurement, but it really looked to me as if I ran a mile in 10 minutes. It was around my neighborhood. Maybe something was wrong with my watch. But it really did seem as if I ran 10 minutes, and it was so easy. And I had just taken off a little bit of weight, and I thought, would 10 pounds carrying that around slow you down? You think? So that desire to run a little bit faster is a part of living. And whether I ever run a 10-minute mile or not is irrelevant. It's who am I becoming with this desire? Is it enjoyable? Do I enjoy who I am changing into as I move into running a 10-minute mile, as I move into being a more loving being? Am I enjoying life, this business of living? I didn't enjoy it when I needed to be perfect. Then I was completely miserable all the time. I would have those shining little moments, right, when it was perfect, that little perfect moment. And as soon as I, got the sink clean and shining, or as soon as whatever it was that was mastered and was perfect, I would have this moment of, yes! And then in the very next breath would be, oh, but that's not good over there. Oh yeah, but what about that? It would pop right into my head, the next thing that wasn't perfect. And so I was always thinking about what wasn't perfect. But when you shift your life into becoming, whatever you choose to become, and in the choosing of what you are becoming, realize that the ways and means are identical to the end. That the divine idea, that the beginning and the end must be the same, and every bit in between. So if what I want to do is become more loving, then the ways and means that I become more loving must be more loving. To me too. If I'm desiring greater health, then the ways and means of being healthier also have to be healthy, which means I have a healthy attitude toward it, that I enjoy it. If I want to experience more wealth, then the ways and means must also be more wealthy. And so we learn from these things. In Dr. Grayson's book, which I brought with me, The 10 Commandments of Prosperity, he writes, act as if, which is what it's really addressing is the ways and means that we are being while we are treating for this wonderful demonstration. If you are treating for a perfect partner, you write down all the qualities that you want them to be. And then you begin treating that you are those qualities. They're already those qualities. You treat that you are those qualities.